This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect.
Another recommendation is to really note what the prospect publicly stands for in terms of their activism. So when constructing a template, you have to make sure there's a notes section or include the reference in the philanthropy section.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Joan Ogwumike, Prospect Research Associate at the Obama Foundation. Hello, Joan. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
Thank you so much for this. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, before we jump into our topic on researching profiles, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share your career story. How did you find your way into prospect research?
Definitely. I think the running theme of my career has been juggling. I began my career in general development, juggling individual giving and institutional giving. At this point, I was conducting only a tiny bit of research, such as searching for contact information and biographical information. I was then connected with a prospect researcher who was an alum of my organization at the time. A huge thank you to Marcus Smith. Although he is no longer in prospect research, he became an amazing introduction to the field. And from there, I wanted to know more and connected with a lot of people. I sent out cold emails and got amazing advice on how to join the field and what it meant to also be a consultant and forge your own path. I don't remember everyone's name, but I know a few. Armando Zamaya, you, Jennifer Filla, Dave Chase. I'm forever grateful for everyone's advice, but it took so much. I reached out to a lot of people, and from there I started applying for research jobs while coaching on the use and importance of prospect research to advance fundraising strategies at small to medium-sized nonprofits. And then in 2017, I joined the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill as a principal gifts analyst, all while writing for Apra Illinois' blog, writing for my own blog, and still coaching. So I've honestly just done a lot in a small amount of time, but here I am in 2021 at the foundation, still writing for Apra's blog and my own a researcher's diary, which has really evolved.
Wow, so you were inspired, it sounds like, by that early mentor.
Yes, definitely. It opened up a new world for me that really utilized and advanced my skills. I'm forever grateful for that, and even grateful for all of the people that I reached out to who really lended their expertise to me and just shared their wisdom. It was amazing.
Well, and it's one of the common things I've heard when I ask people for advice on this podcast about, what should people do who want to enter the field or who want to advance and get promoted. And they talk about networking as a key thing. Was networking something that came naturally to you? Was that something you were already doing, or like some people are scared to ask people for help? How did it happen?
I think I was reaching out from a place of help. I was reaching out very much wanting information. And I think I naturally feel that if someone was asking me for help or information, I would, naturally just give it to them. So my mind frame was they would reciprocate. And if I didn't get a response, then I didn't get a response. I don't know. I didn't hold too much to the outreach and just closed my eyes and pressed send.
That's fantastic. Right, because maybe they were just too busy to respond, or maybe it went into spam. Like generally it has
Definitely.
nothing to do with you. Well, that's awesome. That was brave, courageous, and it paid off for you. You've definitely advanced in your career.
It definitely did. I'm so happy that people did respond, though, and really did want to keep talking to me. It was quite surprising. Certain people, followed up and connected with me on LinkedIn afterwards. There was just so much kindness in that.
It's powerful to connect. So I'm curious, you've had a few different roles now, doing different kinds of research. What's your experience been with researching profiles? Like, have they looked different in the different places that you've worked? Like, what's been your perspective on that?
I feel like I've been able to experience the best of both worlds when it comes to profiles. The format, the template, and contents have all differed, and people have their favorites, whether it's really in-depth research profiles to profiles that are targeted to profiles that are a makeshift template based on the fundraising stage. I personally don't have a favorite and believe they all serve a purpose. So to me, what matters is the purpose of the meeting and how the information can best serve that.
So you're willing to break those templates to fit the need.
Yes, and I think we have to at a certain point or create different templates that fit the different stages of engagement. Sometimes you need more information in, for instance, qualification or cultivation versus solicitation when you should know all of the necessary information to make the ask. So I think it's really based on where the relationship is that can really boost and get you to that endpoint.
And so much about what we do in research involves using our discretion. So we decide as a researcher what information to include and what information to exclude, especially when there's these mega philanthropists and there's just a ton of data out there on the internet about them. Do you have any stories you can share or experiences about how maybe you found something obscure that really led to a gift or helped the development officer? Anything like that?
Yes, I think we all have a story like that. One particular moment for me involves a prospect who had been battling cancer. He and his wife started their medical practice because of his illness, and everything was public record pertaining to their story. His illness and recovery was also the root and motivation for his philanthropy. And again, all of this was public record. So when I was writing about him, I made sure to reference my sources and be respectful with my language because the purpose for including this information was based on his giving interests, which so happened to be really delicate, right? In times of delicacy, we have to take a real moment and judge ethically why the information is important and needed while making sure we aren't crossing any boundaries.
Yeah, that's quite a tricky balance to play sometimes. And sometimes it's public information, but the prospect may or may not realize it.
Yes, definitely. In this situation, because their story was rooted in their philanthropy and why they started their practice, and it was everywhere,
Right.
all over the internet, I was able to include this information, but also be delicate and respectful to their situation.
Sure. Yeah, if they're going to be interviewed by a newspaper reporter, I think it's fair to say that they're aware that it's
Yes,
out there.
exactly.
So another thing that happens with our discretion is that we have our own conscious and unconscious biases, and that comes into play. It's kind of shocking when it's pointed out sometimes because we don't intend to be biased. And I'm curious if you have any recommendations on ways that you can construct the prospect profile or approach your research that'll help researchers examine the assumptions they're making or push them to include more and different kinds of information or people.
Yeah. First and foremost, I think we need to really think of the prospect as a household until research proves otherwise, that they don't have a partner. Then you can think of them as an individual. We naturally think, let's get as much information as possible about the husband or the breadwinner and forget that household income can actually push the prospect into a higher capacity range. In another instance, if the partner is not an income earner, you'll be surprised to learn that they're typically the one in charge of the money and the family's philanthropic efforts. So It's important to paint a holistic view and construct a household narrative and mind frame. Set up a template that helps you form an inclusive habit. This starts when you're training and learning about research or just doing refreshers to your skills or your templates. Really thinking of how to paint a holistic view and a household narrative. Another recommendation is to really note what the prospect publicly stands for in terms of their activism. I think we try to turn our backs on subjects like this because our organizations are nonpartisan, but we forget that a person's activism strongly lends itself and appears in their philanthropy. So when constructing a template, you have to make sure there's a notes section or include the reference in the philanthropy section.
Wow, I love that you said that because we do have strong political views, or some of our prospects do, and we do. And not just that, but sometimes a person's identity has to do with their race. If they're an activist for a cause, whatever that is, whether it's politics or race or anything, and you don't say it, you're almost handicapping your major gift officer who's going to walk in the room and wants to have a genuine discussion and relationship with someone. I just feel that how we word things needs to be very careful, but we need to say it. They have a right to be who they are. Our prospects are fabulous and complex people.
Very, very complex and very open about how they feel about things, right? I think we can all agree when you give them the stage, they will perform, they will speak, and what they speak about also shows up in their philanthropy.
Yeah, that's great advice to have that notes section. It's not like we have to have a spot for each of these sort of sensitive areas. It matters about who the prospect says she or he is.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, you mentioned earlier that you have your own blog and that you're writing for APRA Illinois. And one of the things I noticed, since I also have a blog, is that a lot of people start blogs, but they don't keep writing. You, on the other hand, you have been actively writing. And I'm curious, what is your secret to sticking with it?
Well, I don't think I have an actual secret, but my blog is called A Researcher's Diary because it's basically my very public diary where I advocate for prospect research, talk about what interests me in fundraising, and just ask a lot of questions and interview fascinating people in the industry. It is educational and a creative outlet. So my blog is still here today because of its purpose. And I think if you consistently remind yourself of your purpose, you can't fold. It only motivates you to keep going.
Wow, that's wonderful. And if people are curious to read your blog, I see that they should go to www.aresearchersdiary.com. That's
Yes.
pretty straightforward. Well, it takes a lot of courage to put your own views out there. And I appreciate that because it's hard to be in a silo. Many of us work as solo practitioners, and it's wonderful to be able to connect with others in all these different ways, whether it's Twitter or blogs or podcasts or calling people on the phone or emailing them. You're a great example of why that's so important.
Yes, and I definitely advocate for people to reach out and connect with me.
Great. Yes. Well, we will definitely put some notes on how they can do that, whether through a researchersdiary.com or perhaps LinkedIn. And
Yes,
thank you so much for sharing today with me. I really appreciate it.
thank you. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
That was Joan Ogwumike, Prospect Research Associate at the Obama Foundation. I hope her seconds of boldness, pressing send on those emails asking for help, inspires you to connect more often and more broadly. And it takes a little bit of boldness to add delicate information into profiles when it helps development officers create genuine relationships too. But as Joan demonstrates, it's well worth it. Hey, Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with powerful resources, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member of the learning community. See you there.